This episode of The Reality Check is brought to you by HelloFresh. Forget takeout. HelloFresh delivers all the ingredients for delicious, healthy meals anyone can prepare at home in less than 30 minutes. And HelloFresh is giving our Canadian checkers 50% off their first order. Go to hellofresh.ca and use promo code REALITY50 to get 50% off your first order. That's hellofresh.ca, promo code REALITY50. This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the weekly Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. This is your show for January 3rd, 2017. Happy New Year. And I'm your host, Darren McKee. With me, as usual, are Adam Gardner.
What's up, Cuboids?
Christina Roach.
Hello.
And producer Pat.
Happy New Year, everyone.
We have a great show for you in this first of the new year. We're going to look at some of our favorite segments of 2016. And I'm going to briefly talk about whether 2016 was really the worst year, as people keep saying. But first, Adam is going to give us an overview of the 2016 prediction results we made last year, and we're also going to make some new ones this time around. Adam?
So every year we make a few predictions for the year to come. Why do we do this? We're a skeptical podcast. Well, because other people do it, psychics and the type, and they're all fakes. Every once in a while, we make a long shot prediction that comes true. But since we actually own up to all of our predictions, as you'll see, our track record really isn't great. Psychics do not exist, and we are somehow trying to prove this point with this silly little segment. First, we're going to start with the results from last year's predictions. And I have a little spreadsheet going here to keep track of all the results. I've got most of the results filled in, but I have some questions for you guys. We'll see.
Adam, before you do that, didn't you take a poll to see who was the most correct?
So we asked our listeners who follow us on Twitter at TRC_podcast who they thought did the best job of making predictions for 2016. And the results for that are in. Darren, with 36%, was voted the most likely to have gotten the most accurate predictions. So
cool.
We'll see how that goes.
I guess because I got it right last year and they're just following the trend line.
Maybe if they actually remembered. So the first thing we always ask is what's going to be the top grossing movie of the year. Last year we said international because we wanted to be specific. I think domestic might be a better way to go this year. The top movies domestically were number 1, Finding Dory, number 2, Civil War, number 3, Rogue One, and internationally, which is what we were using, number 1, Civil War, number 2, Finding Dory, number 3, Zootopia. So I said number 1 would be The Force Awakens, the part that it made in 2016, because it had been out for 2 weeks. But since it made so much of its money early on, it did not get number 1. Number 2, I said Captain America Civil War, but it was first. And number 3, I said Independence Day Resurgent. It was number 18. Darren predicted that the number 1 grossing movie would be Batman v Superman, his favorite movie of the year. It was number 6 internationally, and the second movie he said was Civil War, so he was right on that, so he gets 1 of 2 points. Pat also said Batman v Superman, and Christina predicted that Suicide Squad, the 9th highest grossing international.
I failed.
For celebrity deaths, and this is a bit of a morbid segment, I predicted that internet sensation Lil Bub would die as a result of her many genetic issues. Did not happen. Happy to say I was wrong on that one. Both Christina and Pat predicted correctly that Fidel Castro would die this year. He died on November 25th. Pat also predicted that Ozzy Osbourne would die, and he appears to still be alive, or someone used his Twitter account to do a little Happy New Year post, so it looks like you made it. We made predictions about the U.S. presidential election, single tier. Predicting the Democratic primary, we all said Hillary Clinton, so we all got a point for that. For the Republican primary, myself and Pat both guessed correctly that Donald Trump would win. Christina said it would not be Trump, that it would be a brokered convention. That didn't happen. And Darren predicted Marco Rubio. For president, we all picked Hillary Clinton, and we got no points for that. Let's move on. I predicted that an athlete would be murdered during the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. This didn't happen, so no point. Pat made 3 predictions. First, that Germany would win the European Football Championship.
Wrong.
Second, that Christina would be disappointed with Portugal's performance.
Wrong again.
Wrong again. And third, he said that there would not be a second Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, and that Manny Pacquiao would retire to pursue his political career. This appears to be true. So 1 point for Pat. Christina made 3 sports predictions. The first, that Portugal would make the quarterfinals in this year's Euro Cup. They won. The second was that the Golden State Warriors would take the NBA championship, but the Cavaliers beat Golden State in the final. And the third was that the Toronto Raptors would make it to the first round of the playoffs. Since they lost the NBA conference finals to the Cavaliers, that would be a yes. So 2 out of 3 points for Christina on that one.
Woohoo.
Good job. Darren predicted that Drake would attend some of those Raptors games.
Was I wrong?
I guess he did. I saw a picture of Drake at a Raptors game. I'm like, that's fine.
Nailed
Good job,
it.
Darren.
Nailed it.
You also said that the Jays would do better this year. They were 39th in 2015 and 40th in 2016.
Oh.
So I'm not going to be able to give you that point, Darren.
That hurts.
Now we get into some slightly vaguer predictions here. Tech predictions. I predicted that someone would claim to have created something which is similar to Star Trek's holodeck, which is in no way anything close to Star Trek's holodeck. I saw an article that stated that NYU researchers are working on a virtual reality room which allows for real-time collaboration for teams working on a number of projects. The article states that they are working on their own Star Trek holodeck, but also states plainly, we're not creating things out of thin air as they do in Star Trek. So yes, they're doing it, but it's not that at all. Further, in December, Microsoft was reported to have patented, and I quote, a Star Trek-like holodeck of the future, which basically just projected images around the room and is nothing like an actual Star Trek holodeck. Darren said that everything would advance. He said more and more automation, integration, robots and AI, and everything like that in the news. I couldn't really measure this. I tried to do some searches, so I didn't really get a metric for that one.
Half a point?
Half a point. You want to get a half a point for that?
Well, I can take the full point, but if we don't have data...
All right, we'll give you half a point. Christina said that Google Cardboard or VR would be a fad and that it wouldn't really have its consumer moment. Now, you guys can sort of chime in on how you feel about this, but I did do some research on the PlayStation VR, which was released this year. It appears to have sold well, but when I searched for the product on Best Buy's website, it appeared to be in stock. So it can't be doing that well if you can actually buy it. How do you guys feel about that?
The fact that I had a PlayStation VR on during Christmas and I was Batman in a game, it was so surreal. I would think that the technology has come a longer way than I expected it to this year.
Mm-hmm. Finally, Pat made a prediction that Apple would buy or partner with Tesla. Don't think that happened.
Go bold. That's my.
It's good. You got to do a long shot prediction. Then if you're right, then it seems more impressive, right?
Sure.
In science predictions, I predicted that an asteroid with statistically insignificant chances of hitting the Earth would cause fear and panic, as many would fear it would hit the Earth. And I kind of went on with a little more specifics there. In March, NASA announced that asteroid 2013 TX68 would not hit the Earth, but would get close. Website Truth Unsealed reported that, and I quote, astronomers are not so sure about its exact path and whether or not it will come close to Earth than they now expect. The Earth was not destroyed. Pat predicted that the 2 scientists credited with the discovery of the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technique would win the Nobel Prize in Chemistry this year. Unfortunately, they did not. And Darren predicted that the CRISPR technology would dominate the headlines. I didn't have a metric to gauge this by again, but Vox called CRISPR one of the biggest science stories of 2016. So I'm going to give you a point for that one.
All right, I'll take it. Half earned.
Christina predicted that there would be a major outbreak of the measles or something similar, which would help justify rules or regulations about vaccines, and that in light of this, Jenny McCarthy would publicly admit that in light of overwhelming evidence, she was wrong for suggesting a link between vaccines and autism.
A girl can dream.
You were so young and naive last year.
So there were 62 cases of measles in the U.S. last year, which was the lowest since 2012. Jenny McCarthy hasn't really been in the news that much in 2016. The closest to her being in the news was that President-elect Donald Trump was found to have donated $10,000 to Jenny McCarthy's anti-vax charity Generation Rescue in 2010. In other predictions, I predicted that there would be a major motion picture with a prominent female role that would have sort of disappointing merchandise, similar to the whole Where's Ray fiasco of 2015. This didn't happen at all. When I kind of searched for similar things, I just found articles saying like, oh, Rogue One didn't have this Where's Ray problem. They're doing a lot better. So good job, 2016. Also, all those Ray figures that they said they just hadn't released because of spoilers, they all ended up coming out. So whatever. Pat predicted that Jian Ghomeshi would go to prison, but that Bill Cosby would not. Jian Ghomeshi was acquitted of all charges in May. Bill Cosby is scheduled to go on trial on or before June 5th, 2017, so that has not happened yet. So, let's tally up the scores, shall we? We all made a varying number of predictions. The winner is Darren with 50% correct. Following Darren is Christina with 40% correct. Pat has 38% correct, and I have 36% correct.
Way to go, Twitter voters, man. You got it dead on the nose.
Now, out of curiosity, I happen to observe this time that when we make predictions, you don't deduct a point if we get it wrong.
I give 0 points if you get it wrong, and I give you 1 point if you get it right.
Yeah.
So now, on to 2017. A new year, new predictions for us to worry about at the end of the year. So again, we're going to go with international numbers for top grossing film. So I only gave one this year. I'm guessing Star Wars Episode 8 in its first 2 weeks will beat every other movie in 2017.
That's pretty bold.
That's why it's a bold prediction.
I will say Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, Volume 2.
If Star Wars didn't come out on December 15th, I would pick it.
Yeah.
I still say Star Wars Episode 8.
All right.
And my second choice would be Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as well.
Star Wars Episode 8, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Fast and the Furious 8.
Ooh, Fast and Furious 8. Love those movies.
Oh, yeah, because that one does really well internationally.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Celebrity deaths, the controversial prediction. I predict that film director Steven Spielberg will pass away this year.
Oh.
Like Pat's sad personally at Adam's psychic powers.
I hope he doesn't. It's my prediction.
I predict Darren will find this in poor taste and once again not participate.
Right.
We're not going to score that one.
Noted.
Future Adam, we're not scoring that one. Okay.
To illustrate the silliness of this morbidly popular pastime that people seem to have, I'm going to go with Deathless 2017's top prediction, which is Kirk Douglas, and it's only because he's 101 years old. So
Wow, 101.
So I'm going to go with Bob Barker.
Oh, yeah, he's in his 90s.
Still alive. For political predictions, there's no presidential election this year, unfortunately. So I decided to ask the question, what do you think Donald Trump will do? So I predict that Donald Trump will use a racial slur against a world leader on Twitter.
I think Donald Trump will do his terrible things that he does, but he will not be impeached in 2017, even though people will call for him to be impeached in 2017.
All right.
And pot will be legalized in Canada.
Oh, wow. Bold prediction.
Well, in general, when you say what will Donald Trump do, I just imagine the shrug shoulder ASCII, and that's pretty much me. I really don't know. Like, there's so much uncertainty around anything he says. I'm really concerned about his views on climate change and the world of trouble his twitchy Twitter finger can get us into. And it's been really crappy to watch how facts took it on the chin this past year. So, yeah, I really don't know what he's going to do.
So I'm steering clear of Trump predictions. My prediction is that reality TV personality Kevin O'Leary will make a run for the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, but he will not win because he does not speak French.
Oh.
Ooh.
I agree with your logic, Pat.
Mm-hmm. Next is sports predictions. I have none. I don't have any opinion on that. Darren?
I talked to the guys at work. So the Jays will win it all this year. the Leafs will make the playoffs, and the NHL will decide not to go to the Olympics in 2017. Even though the Olympics is not happening in 2017.
Sorry, what does that mean? The NHL will decide not to go to the Olympics. So they send a team?
Of sorts, yeah.
It means NHL players will not play in the Olympics.
Oh, okay. So for like Team Canada, Team US, Team Russia. Okay.
I predict the Raptors will make it past 2 rounds of the playoffs again. Cleveland's a beast, but they're 60-22 and we're 58-24, so it's pretty close. So I'll remain optimistic. We'll have to wait until 2018's show for my World Cup predictions, but spoiler alert, eu sou portuguesa.
Right. So I don't think that the Raps will make it to the 3rd round, but I say they'll make it to the 2nd round and get knocked out. I believe that Cleveland will win the championship again for a 2nd year in a row.
Good stuff. My tech prediction for 2017. A man in Japan will, and I quote, marry some kind of device with artificial intelligence. The marriage will, of course, not be legally binding.
Bold, Adam. Bold. I think blockchain technology will increase, and this will use as evidence that there'll be headlines indicating larger structures, meaning like banks or other organizations, including public sphere, will get on board with using blockchain technology.
Right?
Biometric identification technology. When we were already using our fingerprints to get into our iPhones, and there's something called FingoPay. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's already being trialed in Britain, and it uses vein authentication, which is apparently more secure than any PIN. The chances of 2 people having the same vein structure is apparently 3.4 billion to 1, which I obviously have to corroborate, but this is according to the Telegraph Technology news editor. So anyway, so I think there's going to be more of that, and like iris scanning and stuff. And in a complete turnaround from last year, I think that VR technology, like games, will keep pushing the envelope and become more immersive as the technology evolves, just having experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So my prediction is that Netflix will be bought by a large tech company like Apple or Google.
Ooh.
I had a Netflix prediction I was going to make in my others, but I guess it fits with technology. I predict that there will be an embarrassing statement by a competitor that they have more movies than Netflix, as Netflix continues to have less and less movies and more shows and original content. Finally, science predictions. I predict someone will make a poorly proven claim to have cloned a human being.
Bold. I predict there'll be 4 eclipses in 2017. Science.
I hope the moon doesn't get destroyed.
This falls in between science and tech, but last year Microsoft announced it was opening its first lab designed to find a cure for cancer. Did you guys hear about this?
No.
They're going to crack the code of disease cells so they can be reprogrammed. And apparently the first results could be ready in 2017. But I predict a pretty big breakthrough in cancer research. Like something that's going to be like, wow.
That's bold. So I'm going to double down on CRISPR. They'll win the Nobel Prize this year in chemistry.
Next, looking back at 2016, we want to look at what some of our favorite segments were. We had a few categories here. The first is a segment that surprised you or changed your mind. One that comes to mind recently was Pat's segment on there being more trees than stars in the galaxy. Even when he just announced that fact, immediately I thought, that's just dumb. That's just nonsense. And then as it goes, it's like, no, it was right. And it just, made me sort of thinking about large numbers is very difficult. So I really like when I have something like that to put things into some sort of perspective.
I actually also had the more trees than stars because I thought that was interesting, bit of the recency effect, but always good to have the context for larger numbers. Also, episode 393, where Barry Panas was on talking about mirrors. That was one of the ones that kind of blew my mind. I'm like, wait, what? And I actually still have to go visualize it to really get how it doesn't really reverse things left to right.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 410, Pat, recently ADE 651 bomb detectors used in Iraq was pretty shocking to me. Like the obscene amount of money wasted on buying snake oil and the thought that people had a false sense of security. And also Darren's segment in 419, Are Bees Endangered? I thought that was interesting. I personally didn't think they were necessarily endangered, but you certainly get the impression from media headlines that bee populations are in alarming decline. So I thought that was interesting.
So wisdom teeth removal and the math of Uber from Christina. Teen found a lost Mayan city and dogs hate hugs from Adam. Redheads in pain and Are Bees Endangered from Darren. I thought those were all really interesting.
Next was segments that you found to be funny this year. Pat's segment on advertorials, I remember when we did it, I just thought it was really funny. And when I saw that guy's picture, I just laughed.
395, Adam looks into how the internet corrupted Microsoft's new AI chatbot, Tay. That was pretty hilarious. And 398, when physics commando Barry Panis was a guest, and he broke down the physics of superheroes. I thought it was really fun to hear how he used physics to put superhero powers into perspective.
So the Kardashian lardass autocorrect from Christina, for sure. Man who allegedly sued his wife for birthing an ugly baby from Darren. But hands down the winner was, can Scrooge McDuck swim in his money bin? It was not only funny, but it was hilarious because we had Stuart Robbins, a NASA scientist, on the show for that segment.
True. Actually, I missed that one going back researching all the segments. I don't know why, because that one was pretty funny.
Finally, just our general favorites of the year. So I picked one for each panelist. Christina's segment on politicians keeping their promises. This is just something you hear all the time that they just don't, and just to hear that they really do was fascinating. Darren's segment on talking to dogs I thought was great because there'd been a lot of publicity about it. And Pat's segment on fake academic papers. This seems to be something I keep hearing again and again, and it's great to sort of have that really good solid segment on it. Also as guest segment when Jim Davies came on to talk about Star Wars droids. Obviously this tapped into all of my interests at the same time, so it was great.
A similar vein, since Pat got the shout out for the trees, Christina's celebrity death segment in 408 it's just been so relevant because it's almost always in the headline, as well as do people even read the headlines? That was another good one. And Adams, is 4K TV worth it? Okay. This is especially germane because I got a new TV, but I went in knowing that it wasn't really worth it, but it's almost a forced choice nowadays. Yeah. So that was very useful.
388, Darren looks into whether Greenland's ice melt could actually change our gravity field. I thought that was really cool. Same show, Adam looks at alleged scientific claims about resting bitch face. Definitely Pat's segment on 417 on how advertorials can fool people was great, especially since he put his own spin on it with his little detective work. And Dr. Stuart Robbins, 406, his very own mashup episode of stuff he's done when he's been on TRC because, well, he's awesome, so I had to include him.
Same for me, to shout out to guests. We had Dallas Card on about deep learning. We had Stuart Robbins on twice about Planet 9, Proxima B, SETI, and New Horizons. Barry Panis was on twice, Physics of Mirrors and the Physics of Superheroes. Jim Davies was on a couple of times, Star Wars drones and programming ethics into AI. Jem Newman came on to talk to us about Bad Science Watch, and recently Lars Peliquin was on about whether barter is the origin of money. In terms of segments we did, Christina did a great segment on the mathematical probability that Melania Trump plagiarized part of a 2008 Michelle Obama speech. Also her segment on Mother Teresa. Listeners probably know that Adam and Vero are expecting, and he's done segments on measuring pregnancy in weeks versus months and using ultrasound to determine the fetal sex. Darren did a segment on whether the field of psychology is in crisis and whether or not you should floss your teeth. All great segments.
Continuing our look back, was 2016 the worst year? Many headlines, commentators, and status updates on Facebook talk about how terrible 2016 was. Just the worst year, go away, all these different images, graphics, concerns. And Max Rosen talked about this in the Washington Post. And he said at the close of 2015, Americans were asked, do you think the world is getting better or worse, or neither getting better nor worse? Only 6% of those surveyed thought the world was getting better. Wow. The same low numbers were seen in 2000, 2005, and 2010. It's almost a 20-year streak of things aren't really getting better. A part of good critical thinking and philosophy is to challenge the basic premise of an assertion or argument, as well as consider how something should be evaluated. This short segment will be about framing more than answers. First, we can call into question whether 2016 was actually a terrible year. And then this closely is followed by asking in what way was it good or bad. I think this is something you, dearest listener, should ask yourself. How should you measure the quality of a year? Do you think it should be purely personal? So if you had a good year, therefore the year is good? That seems like a poor way of doing things. Perhaps you should have more than one assessment. So you can consider yourself in terms of how the year went, and then you could also consider the year for your city, your country, the earth. I think people tend to think about this on a large scale, but then they get slightly confused about it in the details. To say it was a great year for one country and not for another could be true, but I think it makes more sense to take a, literally, global view. To attempt further precision, we are often thinking about how the year was for sentient beings in some sort of aggregate. Yes, this is a utilitarian lens, but it doesn't make much sense to value one person so much more than another, and rocks didn't really have a good or bad year, as they don't have any feelings about the matter one way or another. Additionally, what is the time scale and the time horizon we're measuring? When we talk about whether 2016 or some other year was good or bad, it appears we can't help but include things that will happen in future years. Many people, myself included, thought Trump being elected was a negative event. But the main effects, positive or negative, did not occur in 2016. No. Of course, celebrities that died in 2016 did have negative effects in 2016 for people who cared about them. But if you want to be nuanced or picky, if you're thinking about Carrie Fisher's death and that makes you sad in 2017, that's actually in 2017. Of course, the past influences the present, one might even say determines it, but I'm just trying to highlight how a seemingly straightforward question is anything but. How should we evaluate the year? You'll be shocked to hear me say that I think we should be thinking globally and looking at major indicators of well-being. Tricky thing here is that we don't have much data for 2016, as it is only very early in 2017. So I'm going to assume trend lines continued in 2016 as they have for the past 5, 10, 15 years. If so, it was actually a pretty good year. True, some celebrities died, and millions of other people. Quick question for the panel. How many people do you think died this year? Adam, Christina, Pat. In 2016.
All people in total?
Yes.
130 million.
Christina?
Oh, jeez. I have no idea. 180 million.
55 million.
Pat nails it. It's
Damn.
55 million.
All right.
Approximately.
That's way off.
But in what way and how? That's the other question. Many people live longer, healthier lives. Fewer people are living in extreme poverty. Fewer children are dying under the age of 5. More people are literate. More humans are vaccinated. And more people are living in democratic societies. So I think overall, that means things are getting better. In general, most things are getting better in most ways. Fewer people are dying. People are leading healthier lives. There's breakthroughs in science, breakthroughs in medicine. Sure, you can look at various things to show how one trend line is going down, but most of the trend lines are going down in the way we want them to. So the next time someone says it was a terrible year, ask them how so. And then depending on their answer, you can follow up with, do you think that is really the best metric? Or should we only use one metric? Who counts? And on what timescale? So unless Trump causes a nuclear war, I think the overall trend lines will also make 2017 a great year as well.
Hope so.
Thanks for joining us once again, listeners, and we hope to have you listen to us through all of 2017 and beyond. Until next week, though, think better to act better.
Guys, I think that was the best show of 2017. Peace out, Cuboids.
Stay classy, not smart-assy.
Good night, everyone.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at TRC_podcast.
Outtakes.
So I asked our loyal listeners on Twitter, who follow us at TRC_podcast. That's a terrible Twitter name that we have. I shouldn't say it like that.
No, you shouldn't.
It just doesn't. I couldn't get anything good. I'm sorry, listeners.